This is something, for me, this is kind of a personal thing because my professional background is in law enforcement. I worked on the street, I was a police academy instructor and was given the responsibility, which I took seriously, to train officers to be able to survive violent encounters. My goal has always been to help officers to, one, survive on the street, make it home to their families every day, increase their ability to survive a violent encounter, but also be able to take resisting offenders into custody as safely as possible. Less damage to the bad guy, ideally, is the end game, and also survivability of the officer. So for me, it's a personal thing. As I evolved into military training, I felt the same passion to help soldiers be able to survive these types of violent combative encounters. We just spent 7 hours here training in a particular topic. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of time. And the chaos of a violent encounter for a police officer on the street it's not sterile. You find yourself in positions that you probably didn't train in this environment. And so if you can get people to base their defensive tactic techniques on more universal principles and then give them some techniques that they can apply as universally as possible, then it's more likely they're going to be able to actually use those techniques to solve that problem as it unfolds in a street level encounter. So principles are as, if not more important than the actual techniques themselves, because you've got to be able to apply them in a dynamic problem solving process. Coming from being a street level patrol officer and training people that come from that environment, I've had the chance to experiment, with raw recruits coming to a police academy, in-service officers that have experience on the street and now are coming in to get in-service training. And so all of that has been kind of a laboratory for figuring out what works. Lots of things can work. The idea is finding things that I can condense and get people to a functional and retainable level in a very finite period of time, and that's always the key. But the three disciplines that I've had the most influence on what I teach are Kali, Filipino martial arts, boxing, be it Western or Muay Thai, and Jiu-Jitsu, be it Brazilian or Japanese. I've had some training in each of those. Yeah, so a simple flow such as this has a lot of training benefit in a short period of time. It's a flow drill that incorporates 2 or 3 motions. You can expand off of it and get more elaborate, address some of the what ifs, different angles, different types of attacks, but we're addressing the most common attacks: a low line thrust, a high line stab or slash, and focusing on those attacks first, because in finite training time we can't address every single type of attack, right? So focus on the most common ones. A simple flow with you have a steep learning curve with a flow like this because you're training people just to move outside line, okay? Control the weapon bearing limb, move to zero pressure, so you start teaching the principle of zero pressure, and get your weapon into a quick counterattack, an uncounterable counterattack. And so there's a lot to benefit from it for people that have never done Filipino martial arts, let alone probably any martial art, but they pick it up quick, they learn a lot. There is a point of diminishing return, so you don't want to spend too much time on a drill like this because the learning value is steep, but at some point you move on to other things, other drills, or time being on your side, variations of those attacks. What's the next most common thing that could happen, the what ifs? So a lot of value to simple flows such as this. Angola, let me borrow you real quick. So, if he says he doesn't strike like this, okay, and I fan, what's stopping him from taking the knife back and stabbing again, okay? So if I'm not moving into, when he does that, and now I move in, and I go to the limit of his body's ability to retract the weapon and move it to zero pressure. So in other words, if it was a low line thrust like this, okay, and I've successfully defended that, what's stopping him from retracting it and stabbing again, right? I've got 3 positions of zero pressure. One would be here, okay, pushing it across his body. Okay. Let me just illustrate this is what we call zero pressure 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, just to illustrate the point, if I'm holding the knife like this, okay, like that, and retract it, he can stab again. So it's freedom of movement. Now he does that, and I apply zero pressure.